the rich human epos story of Hollywood is filled with happiness and despair, joy and tragedy, a crazy quilt of madness, sanity, laughter and tears, the desperate struggle to reach the top and the battle to remain there.
My name is Vivian Kerr, and this is Conversations with Actors. I sort of have been starting by just kind of asking everybody like how they got into acting, and what was sort of the initial thing that made you think you would want to do it for a career?
Yeah. Okay. You want me to answer it? Okay. I always loved movies and TV. I kind of raised myself in front of a TV. I was like a latchkey kid who would come home from school and just watch TV all day. This is back in the 70s when that was considered okay. You can't just walk home from school.
It's still okay.
In third grade. In some areas. I just would come home, watch TV all day and all night, to be honest. So I always knew I loved TV and I always went to movies. And so I kind of thought, I think I want something to do with this, and I didn't know exactly what. But I'd say when I was maybe a teenager in high school, I did started to do productions of whatever plays they were doing. I never got a lead. I always got a small part. But I still thought, I think I dig this. And then I went to NYU for college, and that's when it just fully knocked in. Like sophomore year of NYU, I did a play called After the Fall by Arthur Miller that just was like, all right, I'm in. This is all I want to do.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was there, because NYU has like different schools, right? So
different studios.
Which studio were you in?
Back then, they offered Circle and Square.
Oh, okay.
And they don't anymore. But I had a teacher there named Alan Langdon who still teaches at Circle and Square to this day, because I go back and I speak every couple of years to the classes at NYU, at Circle whenever I'm in New York. And so I've seen Alan, and he's still there, and he sort of changed acting for me. Circle was great. I liked Circle and Square because it was kind of a hodgepodge of everything.
Oh, so you weren't like stuck in one
kind of thing, like Stella Adler, or Lee Strasberg, or the experimental theater wing. Like they all had their thing. Circle was kind of a combination of all of it, and it really spoke to me to not stick to one thing.
What was it that you thought you learned from him that changed your acting?
That's such a good question. I don't know exactly. I just know he made me a better actor. Doing that play really showed me, I can take on something huge at 19 years old. I mean, obviously no 19-year-old should be playing that part in After the Fall. I mean, it just doesn't make sense, but obviously that's what happens in college. And he just taught me to be real, to speak from inside you, which, in high school you don't learn that stuff. You're kind of just going on whatever instincts where they tell you to walk and what, in high school it's so different. But I really felt like bring yourself to roles is what he kind of taught me. And I thought, that makes sense.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
I always wonder too sometimes, do you feel like, sometimes I think certain actors actually do like teachers that kind of crack the whip a little bit, or like teach by like the sort of the force of their personality. I mean, that always has made me very uncomfortable, but I
loved it.
Do you like someone who like kind of is on you more?
I do, because a lot of people didn't like him. He wasn't everybody's favorite. He's that teacher that either half the people are like, he's everything, and the other half are furious with him. So I wouldn't say he cracked the whip, but he was hard. He was definitely hard. And I like that. I respond to that as a person in life, as a teacher. I'm very honest, and I try to be sort of upfront with people. I just think that's better. And I don't mind that back, because ultimately honesty is everything. So I don't need anyone to be fake with me, and I don't want to be fake with anybody. And it's one of the worst things about this town.
We're all in the wrong place.
Seriously, I grew up out here though.
Oh, really?
So LA is not it's not just the industry, which is super phony. There's so much more to Los Angeles, but I like people being upfront, and not enough people are.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, totally.
I would agree with that. So how, when you graduated, did you stay in New York, or did you come back to LA?
I'm like a week later, right back. I knew back then, this is 1992, nothing shot in New York. Now, you can be in New York, you can be anywhere. It's like everything's everywhere. in the 90s, everything was in LA. And so I knew I wanted to do film and TV. And I had friends that wanted to stay and do theater or do off-Broadway, and it wasn't really what I wanted to do. So I moved back immediately, back to LA with a group of my friends.
And then how did you get your first agent or manager out here?
Well, we came out, so it was me and a couple of friends from NYU, and we started a theater company. Because back then, I mean, things were so different.
People
now.
actually came to see plays in
Yes,
LA?
I mean, sort of.
Tell me about this fascinating time.
Yes, what is this thing called theater?
Wait, casting directors came to see you.
Can you believe it? But now it's so funny because you have your phone. Anyways, you can do... My advice to actors would be so different now than it was then. But back then, before iPhones, before we could just make our own little movies, before, our only option was doing theater. So we started a theater company, and we did a play, and one of the girls in our company from NYU was with Buchwald, and they came and saw her in the show, and they expressed interest in me coming in to do a monologue, which is awesome. I know. I'm also aging myself. It's like I'm 104. And I went in and did a monologue for them from the show, and they signed me, and that was like 93. And, so it was pretty quick. And that also doesn't happen. I mean, that's the thing. A lot of my stories, I'll often tell young actors, I'm like, this doesn't really happen like this. Because then the journey kept continuing in a way that I didn't appreciate at 23, that I now look at and I'm like, that was pretty quick and cool, and
Do you feel like you've been able to work pretty steadily just as an actor? Or did you ever have to do like side hustle gigs?
I didn't. I mean, I waited tables from 14 on. Like I was that teenager that had a job, and in New York, I had to wait tables at Planet Hollywood. I can't believe it.
That's so great.
It's so awful. It was the worst. That was like I'm getting a little shaky right now.
Oh no! Sorry, you're sweating.
Yeah, I am a little bit. No, it was not a good job. But it was all, it was 1991. It was all young actors in New York who all wanted to get a job somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was silly. And then I moved out here, and I waited tables. My dad owned a restaurant out here, so I worked there. And then I'd say pretty much right after I got my agent, I started working, and I never looked back, which is also very fortunate.
Do you, actually, I'm kind of embarrassed that I don't know the answer to this. Do you like write or direct or produce?
You should be incredible.
Is that super embarrassing?
I may have to leave.
I should probably.
I may have to go. Thank you. This has been so good. It's so funny. I don't write, but I did just do a movie that I came up with the story. I sort of did the treatment and the story, and then a friend of mine wrote the script. And Mar Vista, this production company, produced it, and Lifetime bought it, and it aired. And so that was my first sort of producing thing. And my wife and I made a short before that she wrote that we produced, starring the two of us, and we did festivals with it and everything. So I'm just starting in that field, and I like it a lot because I really like having as much control as possible.
I think that's interesting. It feels like a lot of. It feels like that's just like a progression for a lot of actors. Where at a certain point, you're like, it's like you kind of just want to have a little bit more ownership,
For sure. I mean, we have no control. I mean, you get control when you're in that top 1%, or you're number one on the call sheet for a show. You do have some say. Otherwise, you don't. And it just becomes that thing where I'm so fortunate to be working as much as I work, and I love acting. But you know what? I've been doing this a long time now, and I have some good things to say. And I feel like the only way I can ever get those across at this point is to produce my own stuff. And so I'm really seeing that I like that.
When you first started working on camera, like what was your first experience working on set? Did you do like extra? Did you have any idea how it even worked?
No. So I got my SAG card before I went to NYU when I was in my senior year of high school on this show called Knots Landing. It was like super 80s soap that I randomly happened to also love because we were a big soap opera, nighttime, not daytime, night soap opera, like Dynasty Gal. We were in on all of them. And so Knots Landing, the producer would come into my dad's restaurant, and we became friendly with her, and she was wonderful. And she totally offered me like 2 episodes. So you can imagine, I'm 17.
It's a huge leg up.
Yes, I'm going to a set of a show I love, A, and B, I'm getting sort of $800 which at
It's
that
like sounds like so much money at that time.
it was crazy. It was back in the 80s, so it was a lot more than it is now. And
Yeah.
also, to a 17-year-old who's making like $50 in tips, I'm like, wait, all I have to do one day and I get to be on set. So that was my first time on set, and I did 2 episodes, and I've never even known, I don't know if I think I saw it, and I'm awful. And then I'm terrible in it.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to find this on YouTube.
Please, I tried. I don't think it's there. I looked because I don't think it's there. And then
There's no Nuts Landing box set.
No, there probably is. There's got to be. So then after school, though, when I got these agents, I think my very, very, very first thing I booked was an episode of a show called Love and War with Susan Day, Partridge Family fame. And I'm like a pizza delivery. This is available somewhere, so good luck. Go watch it. I'm like a pizza delivery guy. I have 2 lines, and I remember being in front of a studio audience, so scared, and just didn't understand. It took me a while to really understand the world of a set, but it happened rather fast because then, the first sort of thing after that was I got Speed, so that was kind of shocking at that age. I didn't know, and also at that point when we made Speed, no one knew Speed was going to be Speed. It was this movie, I obviously knew who Keanu Reeves was.
You're like reading the script, you're like, and then the bus, what?
No, I know. I really remember being like, okay, but just I was just in that elevator portion in the first 15 minutes, but the set was insane. It was so big. It was so lunch. I had friends. Back then it was easy to get your friends on set. On the lot. You didn't need, this was before sort of 9/11 and everything kind of so they
watermarked.
Yeah, they came to Fox and they just show up and they had lunch. I remember there was a shrimp cocktail tower. People spent money on, it was just silly.
They're like, Patrick's really made it.
No, it really felt, it was so weird. So that was my first big, but it took me a while to get comfortable on set.
I feel like there's this thing that you have to figure out, which is you have to pretend like you don't know somebody, but you know their face, and you know, it's weird, as an actor that basically just goes from whatever TV job to TV job. It's weird when you're kind of meeting someone for the first time, but you feel like you almost went to high school with them because you're you know their face, you know it's very strange.
Very strange.
So you kind of have to pretend for at least 15 minutes until they start to become real person to you.
Totally.
It's very weird.
Yeah. It is weird.
And it's a very strange skill set, I think. I think the only people else who would probably be really good at that would be politicians.
It's very similar, actually. Yeah.
I don't know. I just find it I find it very strange still sometimes. It's better actually if it's a show I don't watch.
Oh, that's a whole thing. Getting cast on shows you watch is a weird. Having that bubble burst is a weird thing I've experienced many times.
Right.
And
I'm sure on Mad Men it was very
that being one of the biggest ones. That'd probably be the biggest one because
it's also a world, right?
Very much so.
Yeah.
It was also my favorite show. So that's the other side of it, to be cast on something that you are kind of obsessed with and think is so incredibly good. It's an interesting experience.
When you audition for something and you are really sort of in awe of the project, or it's a big deal, the director, does it affect how you audition? Does it affect how you prepare?
That's a great question. Not really. I want to say no to both, but I think it must. It makes me. I'm definitely nervous. I'm trying to think in the past. Mad Men was a great example of it. Yeah, I was really nervous and really. Thought I wasn't going to get it because in my mind I was like, well, they're going to get someone famous for this, even though there was no famous on the show, and that wasn't Mad Men. I don't know why I thought I'm used to that in this town.
Yeah.
But I just, the other side of it was I kind of instantly understood this character. It was one of those where I read those sides and I'm like, I got it. I know who this is. I got it, and that also is rare. But there's been times, I often have gone in a room and told someone I love your show, or I love you as a director. When I auditioned for
it just tumbles out.
I have to say, I'm not a place now where I'm I just want them to know. If they're not, I'm trying to think the when I auditioned for the Black Dahlia, and Brian De Palma was my seventh mind growing up. I was a huge fan of Carrie, Dressed to Kill, Blowout. Those 3 movies were. I was way too young to have watched all of them, but I did, and they sort of changed a lot of movie going for me. So at that audition, when I finished, I just had to say, it is such a pleasure to meet you, and your movies were a big touchstone for me as a 11-year-old, which is a weird thing to say. But
it's probably cool with it.
And then I got to work with him, and then I got it, and so I got to work with him. And so then there's been times I haven't gotten it, but I've still said, before I leave the room, you're awesome, and your show is awesome.
What do you think about sort of the on-tape thing now? Do you like it because you get more control of like what exactly you're sending in, or do you not like it because
I hate it.
It's also
I hate it. I don't like it, and here's why I don't like it. I don't love. There's so many things I don't like. The number one thing is I feel like it doesn't give the actor an opportunity to take a note, and that means show us what you got. And if they don't do it, you just kind of go on to the next person, and you'll find the one who gives you what you want. And I would have gotten, there are so many jobs I wouldn't have gotten had I not had a director or producer say, hey, do it again and try this. And then I take their note. I love direction. I love working with directors. I don't like that vacuum feeling that you're just sort of auditioning in a vacuum and it's just going out in the world. I mean, I'm obviously so used to this now. However, boy, did we not have this. Like, all through until like even 10 years ago, it was always producers in the room, and now they're never in the room. Except, like there are ones that don't cast off tape, like the Coen brothers. For Hail Caesar, I got to meet them, and that's how I got that. I think there are still directors that want to meet the actor, and they want to give them a chance, and they want to work with them and give them a note.
Which is so strange. I mean, if I was directing, if as much work as goes into making a feature film, like if I was directing a feature film, I can't imagine not,
wanting to just work with them.
I mean, I get it if it's like somebody who's just going to have like one line or whatever, but still,
I don't get it. It's not my favorite thing. And when I did the movie I talked about that Lifetime did, like we had I could have had it all. I could put people on tape and watch it all at home, and I get people are busy. I understand all of it. I just don't think it's the best thing for actors. I don't think it's the best thing for anybody, because I don't think you're not giving a chance to people unless they give you exactly what you want.
Yeah.
Unless there's callbacks and all of that, but it's hard now. And I get cast off tape a lot, but I feel like I have an advantage because a lot of people know me or know my work, so the minute they see me, they're like, oh, that guy, I love him. Yeah, so automatically it changes for them. My wife likes being put on tape. She loves doing it because she likes the control of it. I just don't care about any of that. I go somewhere, I do one take. That's the other thing. It's like, they're like, do you want to do another one? I'm like, well, no, so I'm probably going to do it pretty much the same way. So no, I don't. I'm not a fan of it.
Yeah, not a big fan of it.
Yeah.
I think it's like goes to the sort of like trying to control things part of your brain.
Yeah.
And I also notice like if you drive somewhere and like you can kind of like leave it on the floor, right? And then have your day. But I don't know. I always feel like it's like you could do like 50 takes.
You'll overthink it.
and then torture yourself watching them all. Like, it's horrible.
No, I really don't. The more we talk about it, I hate it.
See, I know. We're getting so anxious about it. Do you, I mean, I guess it's helpful because you have your wife, but do you work with a coach at all? Like,
no, I think coaching's great. I taught, do you know the actress Ann Dudek?
Yes.
She's a good friend of mine. She and I taught a audition class. I'd say we did it like 4 times because we both would get together, we'd have coffee, and we'd start talking. We have kids. We met because our kids are the same age when they were babies, and so we would just talk about that. There's acting classes. There's not a lot of, or there's audition classes, but they're not taught by actors who are working. So I don't mean to make that they can't give you something. They totally can. But Annie and I were like, we know exactly right now what it's like to go in a room. We don't know from 10 years ago. I mean, we do, but we're not speaking to that. We're speaking to now. And anyways, we started teaching this class, and we loved it. And there's a reason I'm saying this. What was I saying here? Where were we?
Coaching. We're talking about
yes. So saying I did that, and I've also with a select few of my managers' clients who they asked, and people who've taken my class, I've coached people. Coaching's hard. I believe in all of it, but I also think ultimately all it is, and this is what I tell anyone I coach, is it's my opinion. That doesn't mean the casting director or the producers, I'm not inside there, I don't know what they want. So all I'm telling you is what I think I would want, or what I would do. And it's hard. It's hard. It's a hard thing to do. And so I've never, in the 25 years I've done this, used an audition coach.
It's probably healthy.
I think it's been good. I'm not someone who would benefit from that because I feel like I like my own instincts.
I think maybe that is something that's also changed. Like it feels like now among my peers that everyone's coaching on everything.
Because everyone's looking for an answer.
Yeah.
And the reality of there's only one.
Now there's sort of like the coaching industry. It's like a whole other thing that's now built up.
It's why I actually stopped doing it, because I felt like I feel like actors spend too much money to do too many things, and they don't have a lot of money, but they take too many headshots. That's the thing that you will be told by your representation. When they feel they're not doing their job, they'll put it on your headshots. And to be totally frank, it's bullshit. It's them feeling like they're not doing what they need to be doing. I mean, there's so many bad agents, and there's so many bad managers, and they don't take responsibility for these. It kind of kills me. And so I got to a place where I kind of told I'm like, I can't coach anymore. I was finding it a little depressing because I was taking money from people that they should be saving their money and doing something. I mean, the coaching world is very weird. And I feel like an actor's instincts are important. You have to hone your own instincts. And if you are coaching too much, you're not going to get instincts. You're just going to have someone else telling you, here's what I see and here's what you should do.
When you're working on material, do you feel like you're run more by instinct, or do you get really analytical with the script?
Instinct. All instinct. I'm a big just instinct person, but I'm an instinct actor for sure. If I overthink stuff, it's not good. Like when I've seen myself in something that I'm like, that's not great. It's because I overthought it and overdid it and overran it and didn't let it live organically as much as I should.
When you feel like it's not great, what do you see that doesn't seem good to you?
It feels over-rehearsed. It doesn't live in a real place. That's primarily, it's funny, yeah, I see that. And I start to realize, like, I'm not an actor who needs to overrun stuff. Same with auditions. If I overkill on working on it, it's not as good, and I don't get the job. That's been my experience thus far, and not always, but most of the time.
When you've been cast in something, like if there is a little bit of rehearsal time with the other actors, do you like that, or?
I love it.
Oh, okay.
Rehearsal's great. Rehearsal's different than.
There are some actors though who are like they don't want it.
Yeah,
like, they feel,
for sure. I mean, there's no rehearsal on TV.
Yeah,
obviously, that.
But there are actors, and it's interesting. I feel like you do have to kind of respect how people work. But there are actors who are like. There's actors who want to like run things in the makeup trailer, and then there's people who are like, "Don't talk to me until." Do you know what I mean?
Totally. That one's weird. But
there's also like that. Some of that might be more like ego hierarchy, call sheet nonsense.
No, I love not rehearsing. I don't need it at all.
Yeah,
I love it if we do rehearse. I mean, for a TV show, I don't really need to be totally frank. Like I don't. But like, is it important if there's sort of a chemistry that has to be happening between people, or? It's all different. Every project is its own living organism, and they should be treated as that. And so obviously when I go and do a guest spot on some show, if I'm coming in for one episode, I don't care. I'll show up and write it. I mean, obviously there's never rehearsal then, but I don't want there to be. If there were, I'd be like, what are we rehearsing? I mean, I'm the computer guy who's just like, I got it. Here we go. Let's do it.
It would be so great though if you like came in as the guest star and you just like go to the lead and you're like, can we go please rehearse?
Can we find somewhere just to rehearse this scene? Because I feel like I have some things I haven't found. That would be awesome. I'm so
oh my god, please do it. No, because the thing is like, I think that you're like well known and respected enough that like they might be like feel like you might be able to turn it around and make them feel like
totally.
Am I like
awesome?
Am I like not real or like real enough? Like am I don't?
That's so funny. Yeah, that's funny. The guest spot world is just so crazy. It's such a weird world. Now you've got me thinking I'm going to do that next time.
I just think, I don't know, just might be kind of fun. You never know.
Kind of mess with them a little bit.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Since you've obviously been working so much in like TV and film, do you miss theater? Have you like been able to do theater here and there? Or
I haven't.
It's just not really been your.
No, we gave up our theater company. So that company I talked about at the beginning.
What was it called?
Neurotic Young Urbanites. NYU was the stupidest name. And it was all my best friends from NYU who I'm still best friends with, and my wife. We just couldn't, it got too busy. I got too busy. And so no one else sort of wanted to take over. I was artistic director, and I'd say this was 15 years ago. I sort of said, guys, it had been going for 10 years. We'd had a great 10 years, but no one wanted to do it. And that was the last time I did theater. I would completely do theater. I don't get an opportunity to audition for a lot. I've auditioned for the Geffen like once or twice, I think for the Taper once. It's just never worked out. The more I'm away from it, the more I'm utterly terrified to go back. However, if anything ever came to me, I would so consider it if I had the time, and I would absolutely want to do it.
Do you feel like, I always wonder about kind of luck and fate, and do you kind of feel like certain things kind of came to you because it was sort of meant to be yours? Like, do you kind of take that sort of fate approach, or do you feel like it's all kind of a crapshoot?
Both. I want to believe that I think we're all destined to live the life we're destined to live, I guess. I mean, I hear that and I believe that. At the same time, I have friends who are so talented who it just didn't happen. I have friends that are not talented and it totally happened. It's being fortunate. I've been very fortunate that I've had great representation. To me, that is key. You can't get the opportunity. You can't get the job without the opportunity. And I got the opportunity. Like, I was really, I cannot complain about that. I've had people who have been knocking on doors and getting me into rooms. And now, the flip side is I get myself into most of the rooms. But at the time I needed them, and they're still there when I need them, because there's still a handful of people that they have to fight to get me in, because not everybody likes everybody, and that's totally cool. So I think it's both. I'm going to lean more on the fortunate, though. I really feel like I've taken the word luck away and said fortunate. I feel like I've been very fortunate. The circumstances have worked out for me. The opportunities have been there.
Yeah, it's really, yeah. I mean, it's funny. I mean, I honestly have not obviously been doing this long, but some of the most talented people who like came out of school with me have already quit, and you're like, what? Like, it's like that person was like 15 times like better than any of us.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's.
But then it's always like, how much should they love it? 'Cause, you know, if you quit and you do something else with your life, I think that any road you take is great. However, did you really want it, or were you just, I mean, how much did you want it? What level did you want? There's a million things.
Or you wanted it in a certain way.
Exactly.
You couldn't have it
that way. And you didn't, there's lots of that. But I'd say, no, I mean, I really had a whole group of friends that it just, some still working, some not, some doing other things. It's,
Do you feel like, I guess, what do you do if you're working on something that is not, like the point of view isn't maybe readily clear to you, or you have sort of like blocks? Do you...
Fake it?
I don't know. I don't even know exactly what I'm asking. I guess, is there a time you've been working on something and you've just really struggled with it creatively?
Sure.
And then what have you kind of done?
Faked it.
You're like, I quit the project.
I mean, no, oh my God, I've sort of, however many jobs I've had over the last 25 years, which is a lot. There's been ones that have just not been, I've done lots of bad things that I don't connect to creatively at all, but I needed to pay my mortgage, that's just the reality. I've also been very fortunate that I, in the last many years, can pass on a lot of stuff, so I don't just do anything. However, when I don't connect to something, how do I word this let me see. Okay. There's been a lot of stuff that I've done that the material's just not there. It's just not. So I give what I can, and meaning if the quality of the project is sort of C level, I'm gonna maybe be C level. I'm gonna give them what they're giving me. I give back. If that makes sense. I don't overthink it. I just kind of do what I can do to elevate it, I guess, a little bit. But I've never had to quit anything. I have been fired. I've been fired twice.
Really?
Yes.
Do you mind talking about it?
Mm-mm.
I don't mind,
I feel utterly proud of it.
I don't want the sweat to start again.
And to be totally honest, I feel like both I would talk about...
We can go back to talking about Planet Hollywood.
Oh my God, no, I'd rather talk about being fired from actual professional jobs.
But I think it's great, right? Because it's like people are fired and nobody talks about it.
But I'm like in on the firing. So the first one was, which came first? Well, I don't know what order they were in, but CSI Miami. I got called to be a new tech guy, and I was told from the producers and my managers that the last tech guy didn't bring enough to it. So they offered me to be a tech guy, and they wanted me to. The last guy got fired because he didn't bring enough. I know.
It's just a little funny because it's CSI Miami.
Oh, this story pays off in spades. And so I go, and so I'm the tech guy. I mean, it's the tech guys. Come on, guys. And so I'm just doing what they were doing it. I'm making a character out of it. And I did 2 episodes, and I got a call from my agent saying, you're being replaced. And I said, why? And they said, because you were doing too much. So the last guy lost it because he wasn't doing enough. I'm fired because I'm doing too much. And then the other one was this David E. Kelly Wedding Bells, Leslie Bibb show. It was on for 12 hours, exactly. And I was like their cousin, like from New York, from Jersey. It was so dumb, to be honest, and I wasn't good. But I auditioned for it. They cast me. So I went in a room with the producers. They saw what I did with this part. They cast me. I went, shot it like 2 days later, and shot like 1 scene and got a call not to come back because they didn't like what I did. And I was like, I mean, both times, by the way, totally devastated. I'm making it sound like it rolled off.
Wait, they called you and you were in your trailer, or you would?
No, back it up.
Okay.
God, no. That would be still a great story. What's great about both these stories is you bounce back from anything. In life, in the business, you bounce back from all of it. These were dumb. I mean, if I ever met these producers, I have no problem, whatever. I have no problem talking about it. Both, maybe I was bad. Maybe
But you probably would have felt almost better. Like if you'd been fired from like Hail Caesar, you would have been like, oh, like it's they've really changed something. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think if you're fired, like if someone who you're like, I have zero respect for you, and they like fire you, it's like even more devastating.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I don't even want to do this. Like,
Well, that was part of it. I mean, the joke of CSI Miami is I didn't really want it. I wanted to make the money, so it was like, wait, you're firing me? Like, I did have that a little bit. With the David Kelly thing, I don't even understand it. Like, I don't even know it. It's so long ago, I don't even remember. But I know being fired sucks because it means someone doesn't like you.
But it also feels like those things are like things that there's like a misunderstanding where it's like, oh, well, that's just him. We don't like him. And it's like, probably those things could have quickly been resolved by like a discussion and like some notes. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, and the joke was that the director of the episode that day was trying to. I could tell they didn't like me. That's the other thing. I'm doing this long enough, and even back then, this is more than 10 years ago. Both things that I got fired from. I could tell they didn't like me on set. You can feel it on set when someone's like, we're not loving this. You can feel it. They over-direct you. They try to overcompensate. And so both those things, I was like, this is kind of going south. Anyways, it was what it was. And I really feel I love telling the I'm fired stories. And there'll probably be more in my future. I mean, that's just what it is. Everybody makes mistakes, and especially when I'm offered a majority of jobs now, and so they're rolling the dice that I give them what they want.
Yeah.
Because I can't just do whatever they want. I mean, I can take their notes. Like I said, I love direction, but if they had something else they envisioned, and then they offer this to me, and they think, oh, he's going to do this thing, and then they're like, oh wait, he's not doing it. I don't know.
Have you ever like walked out of an audition because you were like, oh no, like this isn't?
No, I don't think so. I've walked out of auditions and been like, that sucked. But I've never like walked out in the middle or anything or sort of stopped it. I don't think. I've discussed notes if I've disagreed with them, but for the most part, I'm a pretty open auditioner. Like when people are like, okay, can I give you a note? I'm always like, yeah, please. That's why I'm here. Let's work on this.
Yeah. Who's like no?
No, I know. Well, you never know. I guess, but that would be weird for me.
It's so strange.
I know. It's like, well, yeah, please. It's rare you have even a casting director. If you're just being put on tape and they want to work with you, I'm like, yes, please work with me.
Do you feel like casting directors are kind of have been by and large more like your ally?
I think they've been both. To be honest, I think it's like actors. I don't think everyone is the same. Like there's casting directors who I couldn't adore more, and then there's ones that I think are full of shit, and I think are locked into. I think the biggest problem we face as actors is casting directors lock you in to the one thing they think you can do. And I got to tell you, unless I'm totally mistaken, I can do a lot of stuff. And the problem is the business wants to kind of be pushing me toward the one or two things they've seen me do really successfully. And I would love to push against that. And that's why, I want to create more stuff for myself so I can give myself the role that maybe the town won't give me. But casting directors are your ally and not. It's both, you know.
Do you feel like you're trying to like create something for yourself that shows you a different light, and like do you feel like you're trying to still kind of win over those like casting directors?
Yeah, there's some. I mean, there's some, and truly, because...
Or there's some in the offices that you're just like, I just give up on that office.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which is brutal, because then it's like, God, like, there's a whole bunch of projects that you'll never get.
Well, no, or I will, because that director or that producer, or there's other roads in that can happen. But there's casting offices that I don't think I'm good, or think I'm whatever, and then there's ones that love me, or then there's the ones that are only like, I'm only bringing him in if the part's an asshole, you know, because that's like, which is the majority of the parts I play are in some capacity a jerk. And that's, I have black hair and black eyebrows. He's evil. And, it's the thing that on this new project I'm working on, I talked to the costumer today, and she laughed because she's like, oh my God, I saw you in the pilot. And I was like, you're so nice on the phone and you're so evil in the pilot. And I laughed being like, I know, I'm an actor. We're actors. People just forget that sometimes. And they limit you by the way you look and what you've done. Mm-hmm. And that is frustrating to me because I think an audience is open. And they're totally open to whatever they're brought. And if the actor's good, the actor's good.
Is there any kind of, I guess non-assholes, but is there anything more specific that you're like, you would really love to do? A certain perspective or a certain just like...
Yeah, like just a normal dad. I'm a dad.
That's so sad that you're I just want to be a dad.
Yeah.
Or like there's all these guys who are playing normal dads who are like, can't I just get a good serial killer?
No, I know. It's true. That's what we're always complaining. Let's be clear. All of us. Actors just complain. And so, no, I've always thought about there's these, the idea of, I have an 8-year-old daughter. My relationship with her is incredible. I adore her. And I don't ever get to show that side of being a father, and I just never. I don't even know if I've even ever in 100,000 jobs had a kid. I must have. I guess I don't know. So that would be the thing. Just sort of a dad. A dad. I know it's a weird.
No, it's great. That's great. Is that kind of what you're working on now? You said
no. It's kind of what I'm trying to develop for myself. But the project I'm working on now is completely evil, villainous, scary, creepy, terrifying guy. And it's a blast. However, it's what I do a lot of the time.
If you're doing something like that, like, are you like I know you said you talked about working from instinct, but like, are you like a researcher? Like, do you...
I've researched, right?
I don't know. I think that's what you're supposed to say.
I researched on Mad Men. Because I wanted to see sort of comedians of the time.
Yeah.
I definitely did research when I got that. When I did this movie Big Sur, that's the Jack Kerouac book, I played a real guy and I researched a little about him. So no, otherwise I don't do it a lot, no. Unless it's something that is specific to what I'm going to be doing on the show that I should know about, I don't see the point. I mean, I don't know.
Do you feel like sometimes it's like actors just do it because they're like...
They want to
distract themselves. Yeah.
Busy work. I mean, that's the other thing we have. We just feel like we got a job. We should be in. For me, I'm like, oh great, I got the job. I'll memorize my lines. Kind of. Yeah. I mean, look, and I also think though, if you're an actor who wants to do crazy amount of research because you're playing a carpenter and whatever, and
or like you're playing Marvin Gaye or whatever. Like,
sure, well, that's different. But if you're like playing a lawyer on TV and you want to do all this lawyer, like I've played a million lawyers, I've never done any research about being a lawyer. What do I need the research for? But if you're an actor who wants to, that's awesome. I'm so supportive of whatever. It's like life. I don't care. Like everyone does their own thing. Different things work for different people.
Have you ever worked with an actor who you found their way of working was just really difficult, or made the set difficult? And then how do you kind of negotiate that?
Oh God, yeah.
And please name names.
I know, please. You think I don't want to? I'm waiting.
No.
Wait till I write my book.
No.
And then I'm saving it all. I've talked to my wife about this because I've worked so much that I'm going to wait. And I'm thinking about late 50s, early 60s. I'm going to write a book and I'm going to just throw it all down. What I like to usually say is most stuff I talk about anybody, I would say it to their face. So if I wouldn't say it to their face, I would like to talk about it. But yes, I've been on plenty of sets that have had people that have made the working environment difficult. And you just have to work through it. You have to. There's no other option. Unless you're number 2 on that call sheet and number 1 is being a nightmare, then you can sort of be like, look, if he's doing that, I'm out. I can't do any of that. And ultimately the crew, you just side with the crew because they hate it as much as you do. And then when you're working with them, if you're having to do scenes with them, you just look at them. It's fun. I mean, I've done stuff where they've been really great actors and not nice when the cameras aren't rolling. And you just forget about that in the moment because if they're a good enough actor, when you're doing the scene, you're looking in their eyes and they're the character all of a sudden. You get lost in that and then they say cut and then they're a jerk again.
I find that so strange sometimes. Like that's very, like that sort of, I mean, I guess actors just do it in general, but like there's something very sociopathic about that, I think.
For sure.
It's like people who can truly like, do you know what I mean? They're like, oh, I'm so like open.
Yeah.
Look at the tears and like blah, blah, blah. And then it's like cut and they're like the worst. I'm like, wow, like how do you open your heart only in the space between?
Because they're not being themselves, they're being someone else.
Yeah.
Being their lives, but they're themselves. They can't open their heart. I mean, there's a million things, but it's hard. It's hard and
pretty bonkers.
And disillusioning. That's a word?
I think so.
Yeah, we're gonna make it one. It becomes disillusioning to me when there's someone I love too or respect, and you're like. But once again, then they're good, and you're like, well, at least they're good.
Yeah.
But no good, bad, none of it excuses behavior that is. I just hate, I hate bad behavior on sets. It's like we're so lucky to be working, and we're so lucky to. We're so fortunate to be there. And so I like to have that attitude. It's the thing about being a guest star actor for so much of my time. It's my first day of school, where I'm coming to your house for a party. And so if you're a regular on that show, or even a big recurring, it's kind of your job to introduce yourself to me. And that I stick by that. And so when I'm a big recurring on a show, and there's guest stars who come in, or co-stars, or whatever, I always want to introduce myself to them.
I always do think it's very interesting to see who introduces themselves and who doesn't.
Oh, it's a biggie.
I think it reveals so much about character.
Mark my words, the ones who don't never really went through the trenches in the same way that those of us who did are.
And look, I get it. Like, I get, that certain people have to, like, protect themselves a little bit, or, I don't know, they've had maybe weird incidents before, they feel weird, and, like, but if it's someone who's there for a week, do you know what I mean? Or like 2 or 3 days? Like, it's very weird.
Or even, I gotta tell you, if you're there for 5 hours, here's why. They're not asking for your phone number. They don't want to come over. They don't want to come to your trailer.
And if that's the next question, you can...
Yeah, you can separate. The main thing is just say hello. Just introduce yourself. I mean, really, I've had so many bad... And so I really make it a point to be like, I go out of my way. I want to introduce myself to people when I'm sort of in that position. And someone's there for one line,
right?
You introduce yourselves. I mean, that's just my opinion.
Well, I'm sure that's very nice of you, and I'm sure that makes them, like, really comfortable.
Well, because it's scary.
Yeah, I mean, and it's also like maybe their first job, or maybe or maybe they love the show. Or
yes, exactly. There's a million things. It just makes it easier on everybody.
Yeah.
And I've been in a scenario when I would be scared to go to a set, and it's my even if I didn't watch the show, but even if it's my 40th job, it's still first day of school. First day of school sucks. When you go to start a new school or you don't know anybody, it sucks. And so just make that experience easier.
What advice would you give like an 18-year-old actor who was just starting out today?
Yeah. I would tell, number one, I like I said about sort of the phones and the ability to shoot something is, regardless of what's happening, create your own stuff, for sure. You can write a 3-minute movie and shoot it with a friend on an iPhone and do it well and do it cool and create your own stuff. That's just going to keep you busy. And then the other advice would be like, I'm a big one on this. This is a biggie that people don't agree with me on, but bad representation, no representation is better than bad representation. If you have bad representation and they are not sending you out, and you go out once a year, and that's it, but you're scared. I have friends who don't listen to me, and they stay with these people, and what it does to you is it makes you lazy, because you think you're okay. You think, well, at least I've got that. But the reality is that's not true. Bad representation it's like a disease. It just doesn't, it gets worse and worse and worse. It's not going to get better. And so my advice always is, get the best representation you can, but don't stay somewhere. I've been dropped by agents, and I've left agents. So I've done both. being dropped sucks. It really does. I mean, it's being broken up with. And there's no way not to take it personally, and it's awful. So when I have felt like the relationship is going bad, I've left. Or I've left because I haven't liked it, even if it's been going good, but it hasn't served me. So I just think actors don't empower themselves. That's the number one. We think that the business is in control of us. And that is true. But if you can, you should empower yourself wherever you are able to. And that's when I did teach that audition class. It is the main thing I told young actors. In their 20s, in their 30s, whatever age, you have to empower yourself. This business is going to pull all your power away. And you do have some. And so just grab it. And don't be treated in a way that's not okay. And don't just stay somewhere that they're like, oh yeah, you're not auditioning because your headshots.
Right.
I mean, it's the biggest bunch of crap I've ever heard in my life.
Right. It makes people get like new headshots every 6 months.
No, don't. Don't spend that money, but you can't.
Yeah.
That is just, it's criminal. They don't realize it's like, okay, fine, you pay for it. Like, you want to get new headshots? You know, I know that sounds silly, but it's true. Your headshots are fine for the most part.
I always think it's strange too. It's like if these agents and managers are in this, like their clients are obviously not working, so it's like, how are they even keeping their doors open?
I don't know.
You know,
I mean, they may have a commercial department that's keeping them open.
That's actually, I think that probably is the problem with it, isn't it? It's like the commercial stuff is where the money is, and then they like say they have a theatrical side because they want to feel self-important.
No.
But none of those people work theatrically.
No, it's really hard. I mean, it's hard. And it's hard. I know it sounds easy for me to say, like, leave your agent if they're not doing anything.
Yeah.
But it is a fact. It is. It's just. It is not an opinion of mine. It really is a fact. What is the point in having bad representation? There isn't any. And people could say, well, at least if there's something out there, and I get that one audition a year or whatever, or that 3 a year, and I would just say to that, I know, but if you don't have representation, a fire will grow under you to seek new ones.
Mm-hmm.
And there are so many bad ones. There are. I'd say it's 90-10. There's 90 shit, 10 good.
See, that seems about right.
Yep, for sure.
That's real sad.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bring it down.
No, it's so true though, and I mean, yes. But not that this is my therapy session, so I'll be cutting all this out.
No,
but oh yeah, I mean, damn. I was with people that I was like, I knew it was never gonna work, but it's like it is a relationship, and you're like. But you're just like, you're kind of lured because you're like, well, but like I get the one audition every other month and then I book it, then you feel like, well, you're getting something out of it. Right. But it's like, you know when you're not in the game. You know what I mean?
You
like you're like, oh, everyone's going out on
the
these auditions without then I'm not, you know, and like you hear what friends are doing and it's pretty
it's hard. It's challenging.
It's really challenging.
And I get that side of it because I've been in it now.
Yeah.
So I don't mean to ever make it sound like it's so easy like to just do it. But
no, but I think it is. I think what you're saying about actors not being empowered and not feeling empowered and not empowering themselves, like that I think is super important, because the reason like actors are, I think, mistreated a lot of the time is because we let ourselves be.
Totally.
You know?
You don't have to. I mean, I've stood up as an actor in my... a big thing I did is right pretty early on did things my friends thought I was crazy for doing. Like asking for more money or saying I'm not going to do it. At like 27, I didn't have some big credits. Like I remember there was a Gilda Radner TV movie, and they offered me Eugene Levy, and it was nothing. It was a nothing part, but I had to go to Toronto, and I didn't really want to go to Toronto, and I was being a baby, but I was like, you know what, this is a nothing part, I don't want to go to Toronto. I knew I had the eyebrows of Eugene Levy, and that's why they were casting me. I wasn't even doing a good Eugene Levy. I really wasn't.
It was a mediocre Eugene Levy.
At best, I think it was a bad Eugene Levy. Like, I'm bad in it, but I've got the eyebrows, and I knew in my mind they want to cast me because of that. And so I'm going to ask for money that probably is going to tap me out of it at the time, what they were offering me, which was like scale. And I was like, I'm going to ask for this. I'm probably not going to get it, but that's going to make me want to do it. And I totally got it. And so it's been scenarios like that, and me standing up for, no, I'm not going to do, that was a one-day guest star, and now it's and now you're saying it's a co-star, I'm not going to do it. Or stopping auditioning for one-day guest stars once I hit a certain place and being like, I'm going to roll the dice that I don't, this is all in my 20s and as I was getting older. So I really stood up. I mean, that is the thing I think a lot of my friends always say about me is I stood up for myself early on, and it paid off, and oftentimes didn't pay off. But overall, in my persona as a person in life, it's been great.
Do you feel like you had good advice from representation in terms of like when to do those steps? You just decided for yourself.
100%. Don't listen. Oh my God, my managers and agents are probably going to kill me, but don't listen to representation.
Oh, they're not going to listen to this.
I know, yeah, who am I kidding? I'll send it to them and be like, listen to this because I rag on you. They're great, actually. Who I have in my life now, I'm so fortunate to have. However, no, I don't listen to, I wish I did, I don't. I feel like I don't because I've been doing this so long, and my instincts are usually right.
Have you kind of ever butted heads where they're like, we really think you need to do this because of people involved or whatever?
Yeah, they give me their opinion.
No.
They give me their opinion.
Yeah.
We sort of hit it out. I've listened to them sometimes.
Yeah.
And they have also been like, wow, you were totally right. Yeah, it's been mutual. I think it's great when you have a relationship like that. No, my instincts are sort of have been my everything. But in life as well, not just acting.
I'm always just curious if people think about acting. If people think, do you consider yourself more of like a craft person or an artist?
What's the difference?
Like somebody who thinks of themselves like what they do is more like nuts and bolts, like journeyman, like I'm a carpenter,
Okay.
versus somebody who's like, no, I'm Picasso.
Both. I know that's probably an unfair, lame answer. However, both. I mean, fully, I think I'm an artist because I create and I make people up out of lines people write. And costumes people put on me, and makeup people put on me, but it's a craft as well, meaning because it is sort of nuts and bolts a lot of the time. A lot of the time it's nuts and bolts. It feels both, always. And each job is its own entity in its own world, and each director is its own person who will guide you down the road that, either will open your eyes or not. And I've had many that have opened my eyes and in a wonderful way. There's only a small little handful that have maybe changed me as an actor. That's the best, when you can have that. A director that you're like, oh my God, I feel different after working with them. I mean, I don't really even have that many. I have one.
What do you feel like has kind of kept you like staying as an actor? Like what has kept you, obviously you've been working, but what, besides money, what do you feel has, what do you feel like has kept you still enjoying it?
It's all I've ever wanted to do, so I don't know anything else. I love doing it so much, and obviously I'm fortunate enough that I work, but even the shit things I've done, like you can look on IMDb and you'll be like, what was doing that like? And it wasn't that great. There were ones that weren't that fun, and those are the ones that then paid my mortgage, and that was fine. But then when you get those ones that just feel like it all clicks, the group is good, the director's good, your scene partner's good, whatever aspect of it, boy, it's just so satisfying. It feels so nice.
Conversations with Actors is produced by me, Vivian Kerr. You can find out more about our guests at conversationswithactors.com. Please rate us in iTunes if you have a moment and hit subscribe. You can reach me at conversationswithactors@gmail.com if you have any questions or comments. Thank you very much for listening.